Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the regular session of the Schertz Planning and Zoning Commission for Wednesday, March 8th, 2017. We'll call the meeting to order. First item on our agenda is hearing of residents. No one signed in to speak tonight, but if you'd like to, we'd be happy to hear from you. All right, I see no takers, so item 3 is our consent agenda. We have two items on consent. The minutes for the February 22nd, 2017 regular meeting and PC 2017-002. Anyone wish to consider these separately?
I would. Rose Garden, please.
All right, Rose Garden?
Yes.
All right. And we'll consider the minutes separately. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes February 22nd.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the February 22nd meeting.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Dahl, a second from Mr. Brode to approve the consent agenda Part A, the minutes for February 22nd, 2017. Call for a vote.
Aye.
Abstain.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried. Minutes are approved. 3B is PC 2017-002. Consider and act upon a request for approval of a final plat of the Rose Garden Elementary Replacement Subdivision, an approximate 25 acres of land generally located 130 feet southeast of the intersection of FM 1518 and Schaefer Road, City of Schertz, Bexar County. Good evening. First off.
Okay, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
So the applicant is SCUCISD, and they are proposing to final plat the Rose Garden Elementary Replacement Subdivision. The project site is located east of FM 1518, about 130 feet south of Schaefer Road. On this exhibit here, it's outlined in green. As you can see, it's comprised of multiple parcels. The zones for the various parcels include general business, pre-development, and single-family residential agricultural. It's about 25 acres. The applicant, SCUCISD, is proposing to plat the site into one lot so that they can develop the Rose Garden Elementary School that would be replacing the current Rose Garden Elementary School in Universal City. The site is generally predominantly vacant and undeveloped, and your Planning and Zoning Commission approved the preliminary plat on December 14th, 2016. Here's an exhibit of the lot that is being proposed. We also have a representative from SCUCISD and their project engineer available for any questions you might have.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Commissioners, concerns, questions?
First off, I'd like to thank the school district for, there's a note in here that they're going to preserve some significant pecan and oak trees on the property. Thank you for that. Points of access. Will there be 2 points of access? And they're both on 1518, correct?
Yes, so the site plan that has been reviewed by staff indicates 2 points of access, and both are off 1518.
Okay. Did you all consider or discuss possibly a point of access on Schaefer off of the easement back there? Is that a possibility?
So that easement is identified for water, wastewater, and drainage easement, and we did not discuss that being an additional access point for the school, no.
I'm Alan Linskog with Civil Engineering Consultants. We're the engineer for the district on that project. We did consider several other means of access, including that 30-foot strip in the back. The district acquired that strip from Mr. Sweeney, who was the original, I guess we could use the term loosely, developer of that area. It was primarily acquired for utility purposes and storm drainage. We're extending underground storm drainage down Schaefer Road to the recently installed county project. Schaefer in that area is not really very wide, and the strip is only 30-foot wide, so it really wouldn't have turning room for buses, stuff like that, and service vehicles or larger vehicles to get in there. So we didn't really consider that it was suitable for primary means of access. And also it serves a resident back in there. We are repaving it so the resident can continue to have access. But there's a number of cross-access easements on that property for those neighbors. I didn't really think that that would be a suitable primary access point. We also looked at trying to get access closer to FM 1518. I can't think of the name of the street that tees into Schaefer just off of 1518. That the gentleman that owned that property in there, he owns several tracts, including the piece at the corner, which may be contaminated and has a lien from TCEQ on it. And his deal was an all or none. Either you take all my property, which included the potentially contaminated property, and the district was advised that that probably wasn't in their best interest to acquire something that we didn't know how much contamination there was. So that kind of ruled that. We also looked at trying to come from Ray Corbett across the back. There's a tract that's owned by the daughters of, I believe, Mr. Friesenhahn. It's between the school site and Corbett. There's kind of a drainage low in the back of that property that runs into the houses and stuff that front along Hillbrook. And we figured that trying to improve that drainage could potentially require condemning a house and several other properties. And again, that was something the district didn't want to get involved in. So we ended up with the two access points on 1518. Buses and faculty will come in across from Brook Orchard, I believe is the northernmost one. Right now, the parent drive is just north of the south property line of the school. The district is continuing to work with Mr. Friesenhahn to see if we can establish a common drive across from Arbor Park that would serve both his property and the school. He was unwilling to do that when we started the project. He has his property for sale. He apparently had a couple of interested people, so he didn't want to do anything that would impact that. I guess they may have dropped out of the picture and now he's willing, so we're continuing to pursue that. And if the district can, we will realign the parent drive to come in at that location. And that's all. We've discussed all of that with TxDOT.
Thank you for that explanation. And my reason for asking was mainly for an emergency type of access to the rear of the property.
In the paved drive, in the, I guess you'd call it the northeast corner of the site, we have a large stormwater detention pond, but there is a gate kind of at the corner of where that 30-foot strip ends that would, in an emergency, the district can open that gate and you could drive across 30 or 40 feet of grass to get to the perimeter. The school has a perimeter roadway for access all the way around, so emergency vehicles can come in either driveway and have access to the entire school site. It's a looped drive going around.
Thank you.
Anyone else with additional concerns? If not, Chair will entertain a motion.
Chairman, it'll be all right. Make a motion to approve item B on the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion from Mr. Greenwald, second from Mr. Gala, to approve PC 2017-002. Any further discussion? Not, call for a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4 on our agenda is items for individual consideration. 4A being WA 2017-002. Consider and act upon a request for approval of a waiver regarding rough proportionality on roadway construction related to the proposed preliminary plat for the reserve at Schertz 2, Unit 4, an approximate 29-acre tract of land generally located 900 feet northeast of the Graytown Road and Bennig Drive intersection, City of Schertz, Bear County.
Yeah.
Again.
Yes. Good evening. The applicant is Triple H Development, and they are requesting a waiver to public infrastructure improvements associated with Reserve at Schertz 2, Unit 4, based on rough proportionality. This exhibit is the master plan for the entire Reserve at Schertz 2 project, and outlined in purple is Unit 4, which is also the next agenda item. The Reserve at Schertz 2 master plan is broken into 4 different phases, Units 1 through 4. Unit 1 is right here, immediately off of Bennig Drive. Unit 2 is immediately behind it. Unit 3 takes access off Graytown Road, and again in purple outline is Unit 4. The entire plan development includes 126 single-family residential lots, and Units 1 and 2 have some homes that have been completed, but both units are not fully built out yet. The public infrastructure improvements have recently been completed for Unit 3, but not yet accepted by the city. I believe they have inspections that have already been scheduled. And again, Unit 4 takes access off Bennig Drive. This connection here is Lazar Parkway, which the front portion is within Unit 1, and then the back portion of Lazar Parkway is within Unit 4. The city's master thoroughfare plan designates Lazar Parkway as an 86-foot right-of-way that stretches from Lower Seguin Road to I-10. No portion of Lazar Parkway has been constructed yet due to rough proportionality. However, the right-of-way has been dedicated within Unit 1, and the proposal for Unit 4 is also for right-of-way dedication. South of Reserve at Schertz 2, on this portion here, I think the other exhibit shows it better. The orientation of this is slightly different. Here's Bennig Drive, here's Unit 1 and Units 2 of Reserve at Schertz, and south of Unit 4 here include 2 other developments, Ivy Estates and Hunter Estates, and for those developments, as you can see, the Lazar Parkway has also been dedicated along Bennig Road here, the northern portion of Unit 4. The applicant proposes to provide a 10-foot right-of-way dedication for future improvements to Bennig Drive. Section 21.4.15.E1 of our Unified Development Code requires that public infrastructure improvements be completed prior to a final plat being recorded. So concurrent with the preliminary plat application that we received from the applicant, they also submitted the request for a waiver to those public infrastructure improvements associated with Unit 4 based on rough proportionality. The spreadsheet that you saw included as part of the waiver request letter includes a rough proportionality worksheet that shows a breakdown for the entire Reserve at Schertz 2 project. I wanted to emphasize that because it looks a little different from other rough proportionality worksheets that you've seen. For the Reserve at Schertz 2 development, this rough proportionality request was processed at the time of the master plan, and so all of the subsequent units also had a rough proportionality waiver request based on rough proportionality that accompanied each of the units being processed. So for here, you'll notice on the total single-family residential count, they indicated 126 residential lots. And then for the intersection improvements, they did a tabulation of all of the improvements being proposed with the entire Reserve at Schertz 2 development. Again, out of the 126 dwelling units, what's being proposed with Unit 4 is 29 units, or excuse me, residential lots. Staff has reviewed the request. Our city engineer provided a memo indicating that based on rough proportionality, we have no objections to it, so staff is recommending approval. We also have the project engineer here, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you very much. Any comment from the applicant? Okay, commissioners, comments, concerns?
Well, just to make sure I understand what you just said, Channery, so that the numbers on the worksheet here, that 126 is for the entire Estates 2, all 4 units?
For the entire Reserve at Schertz 2, yes, sir.
Okay.
The improvements are also for the entire subdivision, or excuse me, master plan.
Okay.
I have a question for you on the section that says intersection improvements. Down the last line of that, where it says Bainig Drive and Greytown Road, one structure at $15,000, one structure at $35,000. What are those structures?
Yeah, I'm going to show something that, so the other project manager, Mr. Rodriguez, wasn't able to attend, but I believe we have a representative with CDS Murray, and he may also be able to answer. But before he steps up, I wanted to show an exhibit that I asked the applicant to provide, because I wanted to make sure that not only that staff has a good understanding of all of the improvements, but that your commission has an understanding as well. So I asked him to color code the improvements, and the improvements that were listed in the letter are identified here. And he had mentioned that for the Bainig and Greytown Road, we have sidewalk improvements and a culvert crossing. I don't know. I guess it's hard to see it without flipping back and forth, but right here you could see that Unit 4 is outlined right here. And some of the improvements are within Unit 4. There are sidewalk improvements along Bainig Drive, outlined in yellow, and Greytown Road. I'm not 100% sure what the structure along Greytown Road and Bainig Drive translates to. From this exhibit, it could perhaps be the sidewalk. I'm not sure. Do you happen to know?
Which structure, oh, excuse me. I'm David Beals with CDS Murray. Fairly new to this project, but happy to answer any questions that might come up. Regarding the structure and that little exhibit that was provided here, this red area is a underground culvert crossing that would enable the roadway for Lazar Parkway to be constructed over the top of that in the future. It takes water from the upstream side of the development down into a detention pond that we're constructing. It'll be located here, and this is the structure that's being referred to in the red coding on the front of the page there. There's our Parkway roadway culvert crossing. As far as improvements along the Bainig and Greytown roads, I believe that's just sidewalk improvements, as well as right-of-way dedication.
Well, the only problem is that's not what it says on this form. This form, as Mr. Dalla pointed out, specifically lists the last item there is Bonig Drive and Greytown Road, one structure at $15,000, one structure at $35,000. So there's two structures of some kind. And it's possible that something has changed. If this is the form that came with the master plan, it's possible something's changed.
It's possible, Commissioner. I do feel, though, that it should be listed as Lazar Parkway roadway.
Well, and it's just a detail, but we're being asked to approve a waiver of rough proportionality based on these numbers, and they don't seem to line up with. There seem to be some discrepancies between what you're showing us on the exhibit there and what you listed on your worksheet.
And I understand what you're saying and appreciate that. I think perhaps this same sheet has gone through 3 previous approval on this 3 units, and this is the final unit. It's the same improvements that we've proposed since the beginning. And if there was a misprint, perhaps in the front end, I'm not sure what to say about that.
Yeah, I understand that, but if you understand where I'm coming from, we're looking at dollar values here, and the decision to approve or disapprove is based on what we're being shown here. And so if something other than this is what's actually being built, the obvious question is, are these, do these numbers go up, down, or are they unchanged? But I just think it's unfair to ask us to approve a waiver that may or may not be correct.
Sure, if I may, if it's amenable to the commission and the applicant, we can table this item to the next meeting where we can come back and have their engineer who prepared this come talk about what the items are. That is amenable.
Been approved 3 times already, and I understand your point, Commissioner Outlaw. But has anything changed in the interim?
So in terms of the rough proportionality worksheet, in comparing the proposed intersection improvements and the whole listing of improvements on the letter, there's 2 culvert crossings along Lazar Parkway roadway. Based on just eliminating all of the other ones which match up, I believe it's the culvert crossings.
So I don't want to cut you off here, Channery, but yeah, I agree with the commission. Staff suggests tabling this until we're able to have a firm answer on that and get the form corrected. If it is a typo, we can get that form corrected, have the city engineer reapprove it, and then bring it back to you at the next meeting.
Okay, I think that's probably the general consensus on the dais. We have a motion to table this agenda item till the next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion, we table this item to the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Greenwald, second from Mr. Dalla, to table item 4A, till our next regularly scheduled meeting. I call for a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. All right, item 4B on our agenda is PC 2017-006. Consider and act upon a request for approval of a preliminary plat for Unit 4 of the Reserve at Schertz 2 subdivision, an approximate 29-acre tract of land generally located 900 feet northeast of the Greytown Road and Bainig Drive intersection, City of Schertz, Bear County. January.
Joe, could I please have you switch it to the laptop? It's not switching when I click on it here. Okay, I guess it's not switching over with. I'm sorry, I thought that it was showing the memo under the CAM. So Triple H Development is proposing to preliminary plat Unit 4. The project site is about 29 acres, and it is zoned residential agriculture. The preliminary plat would establish 29 single-family residential lots with a minimum lot size of 21,780 square feet, which is consistent with the requirements for the RA zone. This latest master plan for the reserve at Schertz 2 was approved on April 9th, 2014. Unit 4 is again outlined in purple. And the master plan originally included 30 lots. The change in the lot count has been a reduction by 1 lot, and I'll point out to you where that reduction came from. On this exhibit here, adjacent to this large lot, which is a detention lot, the original master plan had immediately east of it, there were 5 lots here, and now that has been proposed to be reduced down to 4 due to designing of the drainage lot and ensuring that the applicant meets the minimum lot size requirements for the RA zone. The Unified Development Code requires 2 points of access. The 2 points are off Largoza Avenue and Gage Connell, and Largoza Avenue here connects to Lazar Parkway, and then just to orient you, Bainig Drive is located to the left of the screen here, and this Lazar Parkway continues and connects to Bainig Drive through Unit 1. Gage Connell here, this connects to Unit 3 of the reserve at Schertz 2 master plan. There's 2 subsequent sheets that show more details, but again, here is Largoza Avenue that connects to Lazar Parkway, which ultimately connects to Bainig Drive. The applicant is subject to tree mitigation and protection requirements. However, the applicant submitted an affidavit indicating that no protected or heritage trees are on the property. No parkland is being proposed with the development, thus the applicant will be subject to parkland dedication fees in the amount of $29,000. That's $1,000 for each lot. And that would be due prior to the final plat being recorded. The site will be served by Schertz for water, SARA, San Antonio River Authority for sanitary sewer, CPS for electricity, and AT&T and Time Warner for television, cable, and phone services. 8-inch water line and 8-inch sewer lines will be extended throughout the subdivision, and for drainage, on-site detention is proposed. Our city engineer has reviewed and approved the preliminary drainage report. For sidewalk improvements, the applicant will be responsible for constructing a total of 3,058 linear feet of sidewalk along Bainig Drive and Greytown Drive for the entire reserve at Schertz 2 development. The remaining improvements were requested with the waiver request based on rough proportionality. Again, since that's being tabled, action related to the public improvements would also be tabled. About 1,600 linear feet of Lazar Parkway is included as part of this plat. Based on rough proportionality, the applicant has proposed to dedicate that entire length of the right-of-way with no improvements being proposed. Staff has reviewed the preliminary plat and has no objections. Engineering, Public Works, Parks, and Fire also had no objections. Staff recommended approval, however, with the rough proportionality, the waiver based on rough proportionality being tabled, staff would change our recommendation for this. Oh. Still recommending. My apologies. We would be recommending approval on this with the waiver for based on rough proportionality to be tabled for future action.
All right, thank you. Commissioners?
I do want to make a correction for the record. I had mentioned that Largoza Avenue connects to Lazar Parkway, which would be providing ultimate connection to Bainig Drive. And Largoza Avenue also connects to Unit 2. So I want to show your commission on the master plan where that is. So this is Largoza Avenue right here. And while it does connect to Lazar Parkway, which ultimately would connect to Bainig Drive, in addition to that connection, Largoza Avenue connects to Unit 2 and extends throughout Unit 2, which then connects to a residential street that ultimately leads to Bainig Drive through a different route, which you can see 2 different routes right here.
And for clarification with the tabling of the previous item for the waiver for rough proportionality, that doesn't affect the preliminary plat. It'll actually affect the final plat. But as the commission knows, we generally like to run them with the preliminary plat to kind of get it out of the way.
All right, thank you. Further comments, commissioners?
Well, I have a question about the right-of-way dedication for Lazar Parkway. You mentioned 1,600 linear feet, correct?
Yes.
Okay. When I look back at the rough proportionality application, it only talks about 86 linear feet. So there may be another opportunity there for...
So the rough proportionality, the listing of what was included in the letter with the rough proportionality indicated only 86 linear feet, and that was actually with the proposed improvements of Lazar Parkway. There's an intersection. Yeah, so that's based on the intersection improvements being proposed. That's not on the right-of-way dedication. And that's where Largoza Avenue connects to Lazar Parkway.
Well, what Commissioner Dalla was trying to show me there is it shows 4.3 acres. And that was the other question, because it says 86 linear feet, and then it says equals 4 acres, and it just, I couldn't figure out how to get from 86 linear feet to 4 acres. So 4 acres is maybe the 1,600 feet.
So the 86 feet is the roadway width, the right-of-way width for that secondary arterial class street, which is why we've got the 86, and then that's where we get the acreage. It's 86 times, what did you say, 1,600?
Gotcha.
That's where we get it. So we get
Thank
a
you.
really long strip that's 86 feet wide.
Okay.
And again, the intersection at Largoza Avenue is being constructed and being credited as being constructed with the previous item, which we'll revisit at the next meeting.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure he was getting due credit for what they were giving us. So, but
Yes.
that explanation makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, and as you'll notice, Mr. Outlaw, the rough proportionality worksheet breaks it up into the intersection improvements, which is Lazar Parkway intersection, 86 linear feet. That's listed under intersection improvements, but then the actual right-of-way dedication is where you saw the 4.3 acres.
Yeah, I understand now, but I'll show you where my concern was. But it makes sense. Thank you.
My comments concern road improvements in this area, and our notes say that streets will be constructed according to City of Schertz specifications. I'm wondering if our specifications are good enough. I was driving through this area recently and noticed several potholes and noticed Bryce, while I was asking you how thick is the asphalt supposed to be, the asphalt wasn't barely as thick as a quarter is wide. That's less than an inch. So I don't know what the asphalt's supposed to be in a residential street, but what I saw was less than an inch. There's numerous potholes in the area. There's actual water running underneath the streets and coming out into the drainage areas. There's numerous areas throughout the subdivisions that have already been built, Ivy Leaf, Ivy Jade, Ivy Jean, where the roads are crumbling and cracking and deteriorating, and there's already evidence of large portions of these city streets being repaired and repaved. What are we accepting on this? What's a warranty on a street in this area? When does the city of Schertz come in and say, yeah, we'll take ownership of this and start repairing the streets at that moment? I'm very displeased with the condition of the streets in this particular development.
Sure. So let me take a crack at this to keep on point with this specific project, and I'll see if I can't get some of this addressed. Any other questions you have that maybe go beyond that, you can see me after the meeting, or we can make some time, sit down and talk about it. So the first question is, how long is the warranty period? So upon preliminary acceptance, before we record the plat, when all of the improvements are deemed complete, the developer will submit a 1-year maintenance bond to the city that our public works and engineering departments maintain. And so the true road work will begin at the end of that warranty period, assuming that whatever damage needs to be repaired is covered under the warranty, and it's not, let's say, a crazy teenage driver slamming into a curb and breaking it. That's not a warranty item. It's actually the workmanship. There are some historic problems out in some of the existing neighborhoods in this area because when they were built, my understanding from our engineering department, when they were built and the geotechs were done, we were in extreme drought conditions, and so the water table level and the subsurface water was not really known about then. It is since very much on our radar, and we are taking steps to mitigate that via roadway design. In regards to the perimeter streets of Bainig and Greytown, which again are very much still in pretty rural condition, we've got an upcoming pavement condition index presentation that y'all will be getting. That'll be a great time to kind of have that conversation as well. But due to rough proportionality on a lot of those, they're not being rebuilt, and so it's kind of an existing road. I will tell you that, you know, the new roads that are internal, that are truly the residential roads that the houses will abut, will be built to our specs and standards. And our engineering department, noticing the failing road infrastructure due to that subsurface water, is taking measures to abate that so that we don't have those problems on new roads being built. It only means that we've got to go back and repair and fix the existing condition ones. So I hope that at least gets you there a little bit. You know, again, we can come back with more information at a later date.
It doesn't make me feel any better, but this whole development has been horrible as far as streets go, and I understand everything you said. I'm just hoping our standards are tough enough to determine if there's underground water, if there's underground springs. Are we doing the boring samples? Are we doing the geotech on the boring samples? Are we inspecting the roadway when it's put down? It's a horrible place.
So let me maybe chime in on a couple of things, sort of being able to sit there and listen and not.
And I don't want to inherit another one.
Understood. So a couple of things. As Bryce said very clearly, we have a 1-year warranty period right now. The engineering department has been discussing potentially upping that to a 2-year warranty, primarily to make sure it doesn't get torn up, you know, during construction, or that we start see those workmanship failures. And as Bryce said very clearly, the warranty is for workmanship, but the longer warranty allows the developer to be on the hook for some of those issues. So that's one thing they're contemplating that I think goes to that. The other issue is, you're correct, we have had some issues, I think as Bryce noted, with subsurface water flow and the impact of that on our streets. We've seen that on Schertz Parkway going up the hill. We've seen that, I think, in fact, an email you sent the other day about, and it's popping up. So that's one of those things that we are struggling with going forward. And part of what engineering has been looking at is, as you said, do we need to modify our street standards? One is in general, the other is particularly where we feel like we have subsurface flow to get a better result. Unfortunately, developers in now, the rules in place are effect now, but again, while we may not be able to deal with it on this one, we want to make sure we don't repeat that over and over going forward. The bigger concern I have, frankly, and this is probably one where we'd like to schedule a time for you to go out there with our inspectors and folks, is if they are not building the roads to the current standards and we are not catching that, that is a huge problem, definitely something we can fix and avoid. So if that's something you're saying, I will tell you, we will make sure and have our engineering inspectors out there in the morning and give me that assessment and make sure we don't have an issue there going forward. Because likely if we're seeing that failure that quickly, there may be that issue going forward. But clearly, if we start seeing roads fail quickly that come in not good, and that's where the PCI helps us, because we go out and do it, and if we see it fail quickly, we ought to be going back and saying, why is this happening? And again, making sure we find that. So again, probably doesn't make you feel better either, but one is we are looking at our standards, we are looking at the warranty period. The other is I definitely want to dig into if there is a problem with roads not being built to the standard, and we'll be on that in the morning to get out there and see if, in fact, we are finding the same thing. And again, how did that happen? If it did, or perhaps we have a particular issue in this circumstance where it appears that way but isn't.
You can look at the pothole on Ivy Jean and Ivy Jade. Look at that one.
I will be sending an email out while I sit there now to our folks saying I want to report in the morning on it as to what you found.
And back to the earlier comments about, the drought period. That water thing that I called about the other day, two days ago.
Mm-hmm.
I initially told you about that 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had a drought and a wet and a drought and a wet. So that water was running 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I will say this too. I think one of the things that we at times have struggled with in the past, and to me it's less applicable to roads, because the reality is folks who've been here a long time know we have periods of drought, we have periods of wet. We're going to have that. We know we are going to have these subsurface flows. If you talk to folks who've been around a while, they can point out where those are. So while you may not see it one dry summer, everybody knows it's going to pop back up. So we need to assume that with our road design standards. And frankly, we need to be more aware of that with regard to our drainage issues, where I think it affects us greater, which is a maintenance issue. So I would agree. We know we have this condition. We ought to account for it, whether or not we see it at a particular time or not.
Okay, so make me feel a little bit better. On the road improvement section where it says we're going to construct them according to Schertz specifications, does it include boring deep enough to determine if there's underground water out there?
So,
and is somebody with the city of Schertz going to look at that geotech report?
Yeah, we will go back, based particularly on the comments, and take a look at it. The bigger concern that I've got, frankly, is the concern about the pothole and the lack of asphalt depth, if you want to know, to be honest.
The lack of asphalt depth is because we do not core the roads that our developers are building for us. We asked for that some 5-6 years ago. We have nobody on staff supposedly qualified to core that asphalt road.
Knowing, and with all due respect, Commissioner, I don't know of a city that actually goes out and does the cores themselves. You use a reporting party that goes out and does that. So there's a mechanism to achieve that still. Again, it's incumbent on our folks to take a look at that and make sure the standard is met, depending on the methodology for it. So again, in my mind, while we may want to modify our standards for the road surface or for the road construction, the bigger issue that I would say is a concern here is what you're indicating you're seeing with regard to the asphalt depth.
And it may not be within the authority of a commissioner, but back to what Ernie said, if somebody's supposed to be taking the borings and testing the roads as they're being laid down, and the city's not involved in that, that's unacceptable. I would like to see that done on this Unit 4 You know, the geotech report, the boring sound, how thick is the asphalt? Is the asphalt compacted enough? Is it the right kind of asphalt? We need to be putting our fingers on that kind of stuff.
Sure. So perhaps what we can do, Commissioners, while again, you may fully understand the issue, it may be helpful for others if we can walk you through the various ways that are done to do that,
Whatever it takes.
and we can go through that.
I'm just saying that the history of this development is enough to where we need to be scrutinizing the streets that are being laid down in this development.
Don't disagree. Where we see a problem, we ought to take a careful look at it to not repeat those things and not miss them. I would agree with you.
Thank you.
I'll just echo Commissioner Burrow's comments regarding the streets, being down there. The, Ware Seguin, we had issues when we did Ware Seguin as well with pavement, and the project was delayed for a while because of that. And certainly is another thing to put on our list of topics to look at coming forward. But
All right, Commissioners, any further discussion? Not, Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve PC 2017-006, the reserve at Schertz 2, Unit 4, preliminary plat.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Outlaw, second from Mr. Brode to approve PC 2017-006, preliminary plat at the reserve of Schertz 2. Any further discussion? Not, call for a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Next item on our agenda, item 4C, is WA 2017-001. Consider and act upon a request for approval of a waiver regarding on-site sewage facilities for Lot 1 of the Kutza subdivision, an approximate 13-acre tract of land located at 11634 Ware Seguin Road, City of Schertz, Bear County. Emily.
Good evening, Commissioners. The proposed subdivision is approximately 12.573 acres located, as Mr. Richmond said, at 11634 Ware Seguin Road. The property is currently undeveloped and zoned for single-family residential agriculture and can be seen on this slide by the green outline. The applicant is seeking approval of a waiver to install a privately owned on-site sewage facility on the proposed single-family residential lot due to the UDC requirement that all lots shall be connected to a public wastewater system. The subject property is located in an area with a dual CCN for sewer, with the City of Schertz responsible for collection and Sarah responsible for treatment. The on-site sewage facility would be permitted and regulated through Bear County. The request for an on-site sewer facility is due to the lengthy distance to the nearest sewer line connection and costs associated with building that line. So to explain that further, the proposed line you can see here in red, it's connecting to the closest sewer connection, which is 300 feet southeast of the corner of Scenic Lake Drive, and then it would be an approximate 8,500 linear feet line crossing multiple privately owned tracts to a bore location under Graytown Road, and then along existing privately owned property boundaries until it reached this proposed subdivision. The proposed sewer line location can be seen, like I said, by an 8-inch line, and the project engineer estimates that it would cost roughly $325,000 to get sewer to this property. This waiver request has been reviewed by Public Works Engineering and the Planning Department with no objections, and the granting of this waiver will not have a negative impact on existing or proposed municipal infrastructures, nor will it be detrimental to public health, safety, and welfare. And at this time, due to the distance to the closest sewer connection, staff is making a recommendation of approval for this waiver, and we have the property owner and an applicant from the engineering firm here as well.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioners, comments, concerns? are no concerns, Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve case WA 2017-001, the waiver for on-site sewage facility associated with PC 2017-004.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Dahl, a second from Mr. Outlaw, to approve the waiver request for on-site sewage facility associated with PC 2017-004. Any further discussion? If not, call for a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 4D, WA 2017-003, consider and act upon a request for approval of a waiver regarding rough proportionality on roadway construction related to the proposed preliminary plat of the Kutza subdivision, an approximate 13-acre tract of land located at 11634 Ware Seguin Road, City of Schertz, Bear County. Emily.
Okay, so now you're a little more familiar with the property. Currently undeveloped, wanting to plat it as a single-family, one-lot subdivision. The applicant is seeking approval of a waiver regarding the construction of public infrastructure associated with the Kutza subdivision, which will be the next item that you hear. The city's master thoroughfare plan designates Ware Seguin as a collector roadway, which the UDC defines as 60 feet of right-of-way with a 42 feet of pavement, which includes curbs and gutters. Adjacent to the proposed subdivision, Ware Seguin Road is approximately 60 feet wide, and therefore no dedication of land is being required. The applicant is requesting to not provide any additional roadway improvements, including sidewalks, based on rough proportionality calculations. And similar to other ones that we have, it's being done using the City of San Antonio's methodology, which you can see on the left side of your screen, and it was also included in your packet since it's kind of hard to see on the screen. The total cost of required roadway and sidewalk improvements with construction, if they were doing the required per the city, would be roughly $47,000. And based on the City of San Antonio's rough proportionality worksheet, the proposed subdivision impact on the current infrastructure is roughly the equivalent of a little over $2,000. Based on these calculations, the cost of construction is above what would be considered roughly proportionate to the proposed impact of Kutza subdivision. The city engineer has reviewed the waiver request and has provided a memo, which can be seen on the right hand of your screen, which in short states the current condition of the roadway and the additional daily traffic resulting from the proposed subdivision, as well as additional factors explained in the waiver request letter, are valid justifications. At this time, staff is making a recommendation of approval of the waiver based on the calculations provided by the applicant for rough proportionality.
Thank you. Commissioners?
I guess it's just a little different, just some clarification on this. On the letter submitted by Butts Land Surveying, the letter closes with the owner requests to provide the cost not to exceed $2,314 in the form of a subdivision improvement agreement along with fiscal security. So are they going to pay $2,314 or?
No, sir. So if the waiver is granted based on the worksheet, it would be for no dedication, no sidewalk improvements. And we can get an updated letter to put in the file if that's...
Sure. As, and for Commissioner Outlaw's benefit on this, as the rest of the commission probably remembers from when we first were introduced to the rough proportionality items, the way our current Unified Development Code goes for improvements to adjacent perimeter streets, there's not an ability to take kind of a fee in lieu. It's an all or none item. And so again, if there wasn't dedication, they'd be happy to provide that dedication, which would most likely be more roughly equivalent. In this specific scenario, there's already enough roadway right-of-way for that street, so there's no dedication required. And so then we start looking at, so what are the other options? And at that point in time, you kind of have to build the whole roadway section, which gets them that $47,000. So there's not a mechanism. While we appreciate the fact that they're willing to kind of give us the money, we don't have a mechanism to allow us to enter into that.
further questions? If not, Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve WA 2017-004, a waiver, rough proportionality on roadway construction associated with PC 2017-004.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Outlaw, second from Mr. Greenwald.
Yeah, we need to correct that motion to,
The agenda is different from the actual exhibit. The agenda is 003, the exhibit's 004.
Okay. So on the agenda, it's item 4D, and I'm sorry, I was reading off of the exhibit. So I will amend my motion.
Oh, but before you do that, which one are we going to use?
I believe that's the 004, but I know so say on Channery's case, it was just waiver associated with PC 2017-004, so if we don't want to have any confusion, we can always just say waiver for rough proportionality on roadway construction associated with PC 2017-004. So like Lisa's saying, the WA, it's just how we track. It's an internal case number. It's how we track all the files.
All right, Mr. Chairman, let me try it again. I will amend my motion to approve the request to waive our waiver for rough proportionality associated with PC 2017-004.
Second on that motion.
Now we have a motion from Mr. Outlaw, second from Mr. Greenwald. Understanding the numerics of the writing, to approve the waiver request for rough proportionality on roadway construction related to PC 2017-004. Any further discussion? If not, call for a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Item 4E is PC 2017-004. Consider and act upon a request for approval of a preliminary plat for Lot 1 of the Kutza subdivision, approximate 13-acre tract of land located at 11634 Ware Seguin Road, City of Schertz, Bexar County.
So once again, the proposed subdivision is approximately 12.573 acres of land and located at 11634 Ware Seguin, and the desire is to plat into one single-family residential lot. And like you've seen on this aerial, the previous two, this is the item in green. The proposed lot, as you know, has frontage on Ware Seguin Road. The applicant has submitted a tree affidavit which indicates that the site does contain protected and heritage trees. However, they're not planning on removing or damaging any with this plat. There is no parkland being dedicated with the single lot subdivision. The applicant will be responsible for the fee in lieu of $1,000, which will be paid by the applicant prior to recording of the final plat. The site is currently serviced by the City of Schertz for water, CPS, AT&T, and Time Warner Cable. The site is not currently serviced by a public wastewater system, and at this time, y'all have just approved the waiver to allow that on-site sewage facility. The applicant is responsible for all drainage associated with the subject property and for compliance with the stormwater regulations. And at this time, the city engineer has reviewed and approved the preliminary drainage report. As you know, sidewalks would be required with Ware Seguin Road and additional roadway improvements, which both have just been waived due to rough proportionality calculations. And the proposed preliminary plat is consistent with all of our standard application requirements for the property, and staff at this time is making a recommendation to approve it.
Very good, thank you. Commissioners? Questions, concerns? Seeing none, Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve preliminary plat for case number PC 2017-004, the Kutza subdivision.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Dahl, a second from Mr. Bro to approve PC 2017-004. Any further questions? Not call for a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is item number 5, requests and announcements. First, requests by commissioners for future planning and zoning agenda items.
Nothing to add to the list, but we talked a meeting or two ago about sending out an email to everybody about the list of things that we've requested. Can we see about getting that out and see what we have to work on?
We'll have it out to you before the end of the week.
Thank you.
Nothing further. Any announcements by commissioners?
Just one for me. I want to thank everybody that sent cards, flowers, whatever. Laying in bed for 7 weeks, believe me, is not a fun job, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But to get cards and stuff is very enlightening and nice to have. Thank you all very, very much.
Glad to have you back, Ken. All right, nothing further from the dais to city staff.
Staff has no comments.
Very good. There being no further business on our agenda to conduct this evening, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. For Mr. Greenwald, 7:05.